And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back again. In fact, we're all set to deep dive into another interesting discussion. Now, since the morning, we've had our set of panelists and speakers join in and share their interesting nuggets of insights. So let's keep that trend going on for our next session around the theme, how to successfully build and maintain employee engagement in a disrupted world. Now, to set the context about this and to also spearhead the conversation, we have with us our session moderator, who's a Senior Vice President and COO, Asia Pacific and Japan with Zendesk. We have with us Ms. Wendy Johnstone, who in fact comes with more than 25 years of experience in the technology industry across the EMEA and the Asia Pacific. And she's highly accomplished in being a transformational leader, driving growth and building high-performance teams as well. Now, along with her, along with Ms. Wendy, let me also quickly introduce our next set of panelists as well. We have with us, first up, Ms. Renu, Bohra, who's the Chief Human Resource Officer, Schenker India Private Limited, who comes with more than 2 decades of HR experience in multinational, private and public sector companies in India in service, manufacturing and engineering sector. She's in fact been with DB Schenker for more than a decade and also headed the human resources. We also have with us Ms. Niharika Mohan, CHRO, Luminous Power Technologies Limited. In fact, she comes with a prolific experience of more than 20 years in diverse HR practices with a specific focus on organizational design and restructuring, M&A integration, compensation and benefits, change management, talent management, and diversity and inclusion. We also have with us Ms. Priya Deshmukh Gilbile, who is the Chief Operating Officer, ManipalCigna Health Insurance Company Limited, a seasoned professional with rich and diverse experience for over 21 years in the healthcare and health insurance. And she's actively responsible in all the facets of business, customer focus and operations across retail and group businesses of ManipalCigna. We're also joined by Ms. Madhumita, Mitra, Global Head Employee Engagement, Group HR, Talent and OD, AP Moller, Maersk. In fact, a versatile HR, talent development and OD professional who comes with more than 20 years of experience. In fact, in her current role, she leads the employee engagement agenda for Maersk globally. We have with us Dr. Ankita Singh, Senior Vice President and Global Head, HR Admin, Travel and IT, Cignex, Datamatics, who comes with more than 19 years of progressive experience in managing and leading various aspects of human resources, spanning across high-paced business domains of ITES. We're also joined by Ms. Soonu Wadewala, who's the Head HR and Access Head HR with Access Securities. In fact, she's been working relentlessly to create an employee-centric and performance-driven workplace at Access Securities and comes with more than 15 years of experience across industries in various leadership roles. She's also responsible for talent management, talent acquisition, and enabling businesses growing through the HR interventions. And that leaves me with our final panelist for all of you, ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Saba Adil, Chief People Officer, Raheja QBE General Insurance Company Limited. She's an accomplished HR and business professional with over 20 years of experience, having worked with well-known and reputed organizations handling HR and business roles. So yes, as you can all notice, this indeed looks like a very, very dynamic panel for all of us, dynamic set of speakers. It's an all-women panel, in fact, and I think it's just the most befitting panel ever for the day to extract the right set of insights. So without any further delay, let me hand over the proceedings to our fabulous session moderator, Ms. Wendy Johnstone. Wendy, over to you.
Thank you, Kavya, for the warm introduction, and hello everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We've got a great panel lined up for you, and it's my absolute pleasure to be moderating the session. Now, we've all had to deal with a significant amount of disruption in the past year, and so we'll be discussing with the panel and getting their point of view on how to build and maintain employee engagement in our new world. The workplace of today is really no longer confined to the 4 walls of an office. It's really become much more fragmented as a result of the pandemic. Most people are still working some of the time at home, if not all of the time at home or remotely, as we all continue to face lockdowns. Now, I would have loved to have been in India today to do this in person, but instead we're doing it on Zoom. And I saw an interesting stat recently that since last year, Zoom's daily active users have risen from 10 million to a staggering 200 million. Now, who would really have predicted that a year ago? Given this new normal, companies have really had to think differently about how they create the employee experience for their staff so that their staff continue to feel connected, supported, and included. And so that's what we're looking forward to discussing with you all today. We hope that after the conversation, whatever industry you're in, that you'll come away with something new, a new idea, a fresh perspective, or a new strategy, something that you can take back and apply to make you more successful in your role. I just wanted to remind you that we will have some time as well for Q&A at the end. So please feel free to use the chat feature and to submit your questions for our panelists. So I think it's just about time to get started. So I'll open the discussion with a question to all of our panelists. With the way that we work, live, and collaborate today being so dramatically different, what is one positive change that you have made in your organization's employee engagement strategy that you wouldn't have actually made if it were not for the pandemic? So I think we're all looking for a silver lining to this pandemic. What would that be for each of you in your organizations?
Thanks, Wendy. I can go in first. So the obvious first, the pandemic forced us to adopt technology, like you said, and go virtual in practically everything. From the way we connect with each other to collaborate through several tools. So the mode of communication and connect just got virtual with a higher reach and more communication happening. I don't think we would have gone this virtual with enhanced communication avenues so sudden had the pandemic not hit us. And virtual also meant that the communication reach, the participation increased, as it was much more flexible and available to all. I think the other aspect that strengthened in the entire engagement strategy was also the focus on holistic health and wellness, with mental health being called out and interventions designed around these. Never have I seen so much talk and activity around employee wellness that I really see now. And it's heartening to see employers, big or small or medium size, trying to do their best for their employees in a challenging environment. So that's the introductory comments from my side.
So Wendy, if I go next, basically we all acknowledge and agree that the virus has upended our entire world and affected people not only in one geography or social or economic segment, but across all paradigms, and all businesses are dealing with it, in different phases and at different stages, so to say. So in such unprecedented times, we all believe to win in the marketplace, we must first win at the workplace. And, in order to win customers, companies must win over their employees first. And in the current situation, safety, security, and stability was most important. And I guess what worked well for our organization was putting the mission first, because we are a health insurance company, and health and well-being has taken the center stage in the current pandemic situation. So how do we really put the mission first and get the whole, organization and the employees to rally behind that mission of keeping our customers safe and the larger nation safe and informed on how to really build immunity? That really worked very well. So to say, caring, connecting, and communicating with the larger segment of our employees, designing from our heart, putting the mission first, and aiming over speed, speed over elegance in times of current, uncertainty has really worked well. So we own the narrative through and through, and I'm also at the same time embrace the long-term view. So that's gone very well for our company. Wendy.
Okay. Going in next, Saba, in fact, 2 points that I wanted to cover, you've already covered. So I was thinking in my mind, what is it that I can add differently? I will still add 2 points. I think one blessing in disguise was this whole transitioning of, working from home. While in the past, a lot of policies have been drafted, we also did the same, but the acceleration and the acceptation of working from home as a concept increased a lot due to the pandemic. The interactions with customers, so I come from an organization called Luminous. We're into B2C line of business, and our traditional way of interacting with customers has always been face-to-face. However, adoption of digitization and really still catering to our customer, our channel partners, our distributors through a virtual world, engaging with them and taking the business forward has really got accelerated, thanks to this. The other important point that I would like to say is that while employee has been always the focus, customer on one side for an organization and the employee on the other side. But I think really making employee at the center stage, heart of everything that an organization has done in the last 1 year, has adopted a magnitude which I haven't seen in the last couple of years. So in a nutshell, two big changes. One is really transitioning to a mode and acceptance of working in a virtual world, working from home, interactions with customers, distributors through more of a digital mean. And thirdly, keeping employee at the heart of everything that is done at the organization. That would be my answer.
Wendy, if I may go next. Right. So for us, of course, it was creating as many touch points and extending flexibility, both mental and physical. Most of the points my co-panelists have shared already, but just to sum it up, especially in our industry, as Niharika also mentioned, it would have never been thought of dealers working remotely in a highly governed sector. Essential services meant us to keep our branches running in midst of the pandemic, and that made us quickly adapt to new normal instantly. Hence, extending this flexibility to not only working remotely, but also extending gig opportunities for few teams, enabling them to choose their working time. So entire transition of working remotely, and for few of the employees still managing branches, still managing the house, fort, while the others are back end at the remote workplaces. We also created something different this year, was blending our learning approaches by not only focusing on skilling and reskilling, but how flexible is the employee to absorb these skills at a consciousness level. So we had functional experts and mindfulness experts combined. They combined their expertise to deliver key skill sessions. This was something first that we adopted, and I think that really helped us enable our employees to be mindful first and then take the next steps to deliver results. While offices shifted to households, the households became an integral part of our corporate interactions, like award functions, wellness programs, and various hobby groups that we created. So yes, in a nutshell, for us, inclusion at workplace, blending our learning approaches, and flexibility wouldn't have happened at the speed and intensity it took place during this period. Thank you.
So if I may go next, Renu here. First of all, thanks for the opportunity for such a lively interaction on a topic which is so relevant, and I'm sure that there will be a lot of mutual learning. For us, the question is that what was one positive change in the employee engagement strategy? And I would say, though it was always told, but I think it was really demonstrated that we believe in employee first. So this was plain and simple strategy, employee first. Everything was being driven by it. So when the second wave was there, and the first wave was there, we augmented the insurances scheme. The second wave was there, we did so many things around wellness, be it adding of features like home treatment, be it enhancement of coverage, be it teleconsultation, be it empanelment of a pulmonologist, and so on. But I think one thing which has added to the employee engagement strategy, and I think which should go for a long run, will be the enhanced face time with the senior management team. I think it was never that before. You had town halls. There would be footfalls in the town hall, but if a town hall is on a broadcast, done in broadcast manner on MS Team or whatever the channel, you have a huge presence, and it was like done so regularly. So enhanced face time. So it was like the leader was available to all of us across the rank and file. And second thing which I see is the use of informal channels for communication like WhatsApp. WhatsApp groups were formed at various, units, various locations, and sharing of fun element to care to whatever work also was through the informal channels. And I think WhatsApp, there was a generation which said we will never have, because you have to use mail and not WhatsApp for communication. And then I think it was demolished. And we have this new channel of communication. So these are my 2 points here. Thanks.
Hi,
Wendy, if I may go next.
Sure.
Sorry, Ankita, go ahead.
Please go ahead. That's perfectly fine. I agree. Go ahead.
Thanks. For us as an organization, but whatever the co-panelists said, we all did that and had our share of success. I was actually in for quite a surprise because of the uptick of the various technologies and various services that we've created. I mean, we've created learning interventions which went online. We created meetings and global town halls online, and there was huge response. I think it's the pace of change and the accelerated embracing of technology across the organization that sort of took us by surprise and positive surprise in a way. And that helped us really build it. It did help, like Renu mentioned, around communication and regular communication, having town halls and meetings. It did help, like Saba mentioned, around care and connect and regular maybe offline groups, off email groups like WhatsApp groups and things like that. But it's really that change, that acceleration. So today it is seen as normal. And why it is so surprising is because of diverse workforce that we have. I mean, we're not talking about just office-based employees. I mean, we have vessel crews who are right in the middle of the sea. We have terminal employees, similar to probably what Schenker might be having, warehouse and distribution employees, and expecting them to embrace technology at that fast pace, I think was an eye-opener for us. And that sort of enthused the HR team to come out with more and more online kind of initiatives. And we continue to do that and continue to engage with them. So those are my 2 cents there. Ankita, over to you.
Thanks. Thank you so much. I think I would agree with what all has been shared till now. With respect to my organization, I think we have stuck to the fundamentals, the basic, the hygiene, processes and policies. Those were designed for employees. But what we have changed because of the pandemic primarily is we have made everything more flexible and nimble than probably ever. So we understand how different it can be for individuals because of the various factors. Earlier, when we had them in the organization, obviously there were a lot of things we could control, but now with respect to their families, with respect to their individual, disturbances or the preferences, a lot of things are different. So we have made an intentional move to go from generalized to personalized in literal sense, thanks to the technology, be it with job description or their KRA setting or training and development, communication policies, anything and everything that is impacting them directly or indirectly. So that's the major change. And this is not just for the second wave or probably if you are hit by the third wave. I think this will remain as is, wherein more of our policies or processes will become flexible and nimble, wherein we can take care of the sense of individuals' needs and we can modify and consider those accordingly. So that's my take on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And you said the word flexibility, which is really, really key in all this. So many great best practices there and great perspective from everyone, and some topics that, we can really dive into a bit deeper in this discussion. Health and wellness, the use of technology, communications channels. I loved the engagement with senior executives that people now have that they may not have had in the past. And then just the acceptance of working at home. that becoming normal, which for a lot of organizations in a lot of countries, it just wasn't. There's one thing I just want to pull out from the discussion, which was putting the employee at the center of everything. I think that is just so critically important. I think in my role as a COO, when I think about the future and when we plan in our organization, we often think about the customer of the future and what the customer of the future will look like and what their needs will be. But what do you think we need to think about in respect to the employee of the future? How have their expectations shifted? And how do we need to think differently as a result of the pandemic? So Renu, I'd love a perspective from you on that, if you'd like to kick us off, and then Niharika as well, if you'd like to join that conversation.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's an interesting question, very pertinent, because we are now directly comparing employee with customer, as if they are two sides of the same coin. And I think never before we have said that. We always said, yeah, customer is the king. And then we say there are other stakeholders, employees, community, and so on. But I think now this pandemic has brought employees at the centerpiece. As I said, employee first. So I think flexibility is the key word here. And flexibility means various things to various people. It is not that before pandemic, we were not talking about it. We have been talking about flexi time, I think, for the last 2 decades. We have been talking about flexible working hours. We've talking about flexible role at times, if you are in a different, stage of your life cycle. But I think flexibility in all sense has come into the fore with this. And I think it is going to stay. Is going to stay, and it will add more challenges to the HR team. It means so many things, and then at times it can become so, I'm just say, a tug of war also between manager and the team members, which we see at times. In the name of flexibility, you may also come at the war zone. But then, yeah, flexibility is one, and work-life integration. Though, there are business people who say, what is work-life integration? If work has a purpose, then, does a poet talks about work-life integration? Does a painter, does an artist, and why we are talking about work-life integration? But I think since we are an organized workplace and not like artists or whatever, so work-life integration, I think, has to be unraveled, and it will mean various things to various people in various organizations. But yes, it will be one of the priorities. Job security, though one may not like to talk about it, but I think somewhere with the pandemic and with these kind of sudden, changes, people do look for that. Maybe it will be for few, it will be maybe for certain phase of life, but it will be there. Wellness. And wellness has its own meaning, the big horizon. It is like a very wide spectrum in wellness, and the wider it will become, wellness will mean so many things. And technology, I think technology is an enabler. We talk about workplace and we talk about culture. I think we should talk about technology also, because in the work from home scenario, I can see my organization through technology. It is HR processes through which I as an employee talk to the organization. And if HR processes are very cumbersome, then employee engagement takes a back seat. Employee experience rather takes a back seat. So I would say HR Lite. I think we have been talking about it in a big way. So HR Lite is going to be there for a long time. Yeah. Thank you.
Niharika, anything you'd like to add?
Sure. Renu has covered quite a plethora of aspects. So Renu, thanks for that. I'll try and add a couple of points for me. This is how I see 2025 look for the employees. as I said earlier also, this pandemic has got employee in the centerfold, right? We knew employee was always at the heart of what we did, but I think the focus which this pandemic has got to the employees has been manifold. According to me, 3-4 things would be the trend going forward. One is that the way I see is that hybrid workplace will continue, right? So while currently it's all virtual world, but ultimately it will translate to hybrid workplace, and that will mean a lot of things for a lot of people. I really believe that, while we have taken a leap towards digitization in all our tools, in all the aspects, not from an HR standpoint, but talk about business, talk about digitization and IT, I think collaborative tools and digitization will continue. The journey will continue because hybrid workplace will be the future. That would also mean that, you will have, as an organization, you will have employees from very different generations working in a very hybrid place. So you have a lot of generations who are there right now. And the last year taught us a little bit of sensitization towards how is it that we can be more inclusive, right? Inclusive not just from a gender standpoint, but inclusive also from from personality standpoint. How is it that in a virtual world, you're able to leverage the best of introverts, extroverts, millennials, Generation Z? So there were a lot of variables which were playing around, right? And I do believe that going forward, this will continue, the complexity will continue, and an organization which is able to leverage the best out of all generations, being very inclusive, would succeed. So that is the second trend that I see. Third is the sense of purpose, which an organization can instill within its employees is going to be an extremely important element. I think last year has taught us organizations which were able to show a sense of purpose, a mission to its employees, were able to really thrive during the pandemic. It could also be helping, if the sense of purpose is to help the communities, you ensured that people in the organization rallied across that. And that kept the engagement high, right? So it is all very linked. So I think organizations which are able to show a larger purpose to its employees will succeed. And purpose for the young generation, the millennials that we have is immense. Just to share with you, in Luminous, our sense of purpose over the last 1.5 years was, how is it that we can illuminate lives, really passionately innovate to serve our customers and our distributors. And that's what we rallied across, and that's what helped us. So third would be on sense of purpose. Fourth is, I think, time and age of personalized leadership is going to take place. Over the last year, again, all of us have spoken about how the leaders in some way have really taken the lead to ensure employee engagement and personal connects. In fact, there has been a change in terms of how even the managers have dealt with the first wave vis-a-vis the second wave, right? First wave was, was lighter in some ways, but second wave was hitting all of us at home, hitting our friend circle. So I think the leadership of an organization really had to step up to really be with their people in these tough times. So I think these would be the 4-5 things which I can think about, which are slightly different from what my colleague said. But yes, it's going to be a little different world. Just to summarize, it's going to be a different world. Hybrid workplace is going to be a way of life. We will have to ensure that we are, as organizations, able to show a sense of purpose to our employees so that we are able to extract the best, ensure that we are able to value generations from all space, and really ensure that we are able to take them and harness their strengths going forward. That was, and then leadership, really demonstrating, taking the lead, demonstrating, being compassionate, empathetic to the people is going to continue for some time. Wendy, I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Thank you. Thank you. Lots of rich perspective there. And I love this sense of purpose. It's so true. I think, you know, people are making decisions on whether to join organizations or not today based on that organization's sense of purpose. And it's so important. And I also love this work-life integration. It's no longer work-life balance. Given sort of we're all at home, we're all having to deal with work and everything else that's going on around about us with our families. It really is about integration, such an important point. I think in terms of, you know, what we've discussed so far, Priya, Soonu and Saba, is there anything that your organization has invested in the last 12 months that you hadn't invested in previously, or anything that you've accelerated your investment in to really execute on this new way of engaging with your employees?
Sure, Wendy, very good conversation so far. And, you know, as it turns out, all of us, all companies have done a fantastic and fabulous job in ensuring that we operate in this new normal. And now we are traversing towards the next new normal in the phase, you know, second phase and third phase of the pandemic. So, you know, the changes, the employee needs have been evolving all throughout. And as we transitioned in operating in a BCP environment, you know, as it looked like it's just a BCP for the transitionary period. And it turns out that it is going to be staying here for some time, working from home, virtual meetings, you know, a lot of changes around the way we are engaging with the employees. So I guess it's evolved over a period of last year and a half. And as a health insurance company, as I was talking about some time back, a couple of you know, co-panelists also mentioned, you know, in India, we have this face-to-face selling, advisory selling, and with the pandemic at the fore, you know, it has changed the way we are selling, we are purchasing, we are interacting, we are, you know, kind of the social media interactions, all of that has undergone a change. And from an employee perspective as well, you know, as an organization, we had to make a lot of changes in our engagement, you know, modality, and move from a physical engagement to a digital virtual engagement, be it, you know, health and wellness, so to say, or emotional and behavioral assistance in terms of mental well-being, because that took a center stage, as most of our colleagues are stating here. So we also invested a huge amount of energy and efforts on digital technology. All along with the disruption that is happening, the focus has always been on the customer, as we all know. Now, how that has rapidly shifted and it is pivoted towards employees, those technologies, those elements and routes of engagement have transitioned swiftly to employees and have become applicable, be it you know, the tools and techniques and analytics on you know, the pulse surveys. We all have used the pulse surveys so often in the last 1 year, you know, and beat surveys, trying and understanding what's the pulse, how employees are coping up. And most importantly, from a work from home environment, we did not imagine for it to be such a long tail. And we also did not imagine that people would take it so nicely across the world. It has turned out to be a very, very positive change, and it's going to stay for long. So with that, some amount of modulation and changes in the whole approach is something that we have done. And to your question, Wendy, you know, as an investment from an ongoing perspective, as employers, we have to realize that we learned a lot from this pandemic. So there are certain liberating elements and certain challenges, but at the same time, we have lots and lots of learnings, and we should not snap back to old ways. With that, you know, with this virtual engagement, with this way of working, investing in, you know, upbringing and upscaling our employees' digital technology kind of knowledge base, and how do we really engage with our customers, because that's going to be a change that's going to remain for good, is what I would say as a future investment area, so to say. Hope I answered your question, Wendy.
Thank you, Priya.
Thanks, Priya. Yeah, hi, Wendy.
Hi.
So yes, we did some immediate interventions while we evaluated our entire EVP to fit the challenging needs. We introduced more key policies. We added top line term life insurance coverage, provided some COVID care support, extraordinary leaves, employee wellness. Employee assistance program and many others that already my co-panelists have mentioned. Of course, invested a lot in feeling the pulse, as Priya mentioned. What's the beat like, what's the pulse like of employees, and very importantly, investing on digital agility. We understood that there is an immediate requirement to get our customers digitally aligned and agile, and at the same time get our employees to attune themselves to train the customers to the new ways of working. So our frontline employees had to virtually engage with clients and team members while one is equally impacted with the pandemic. Like Niharika mentioned, it's come to our homes and our family circles. So while withstanding that, how agile can you be upgrading your skill sets while guiding our customers also? Thankfully, the markets were favorable for us. I think most of the people took time away at home and invested a lot in markets, and that helped us to really convert our customer online base to around 70%. It helped us reduce our tax of customer onboarding. So all this happened only when our employees could be digitally aligned and train our customers in turn. Other than that, of course, we ensure that we are investing in life skills, in digital agility, and in certain shifts in policies and processes. We also introduce something which is line of sight as to why am I doing what am I doing. Typically, again, to what Niharika mentioned, it's to have an ultimate purpose, whether you are an MIS operator or whether you are a dealer or a frontline worker. What is it that you are doing and why and how it is impacting the organization at a large and impacting your lifetime as well. So I think creating these small little line of sights to give a bigger picture during the pandemic, I think that really resonated and reflected well with employees to carry on and have that momentum to be continued. So yeah, in a nutshell, life skills, digital agility, shift in policies, and having a line of sight, I would say. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Saba, anything else to add?
Yeah, I think we discussed it. Flexibility is definitely the call of the day. And when we speak of personalizing employee experience, flexibility is a real driver. So for us, we've kept our ear to the ground to capture in what employees are asking for. And I've given several flexible options based on need, from making virtual working comfortable because it was the first time they were doing it, to virtual joining, engaging, to flexible working and coming to office. Wellness break day, where we, midweek we declared a break day for people to prioritize health, wellness, and family. Vaccination leaves, to organizing vaccination camp for people, because that is what people were really asking for. It was all a package around their health and wellness. Financial assistance for COVID impacted people, and the list just goes on. Again, it was all based on need, and we, being a listening organization, were just going by the pulse of the employees. So that's the add-on from what the other panelists have just said.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I think, it's about, I think, as you said, Priya, taking the new and learning. And I think as we move forward, I think, we'll have learned a lot, and we'll take the new that we've learned into the future. But equally, I think there's probably some things that we'll take from the past as well. Some things that we've probably missed, that we want to get back to. So I think we'll see a real blend as we move forward. Now, I only joined Zendesk 12 months ago. So I actually joined the company completely in the middle of the pandemic. I interviewed for the company, I met the senior leadership of the company, and I joined the company and onboarded completely on Zoom. And I have to say, I was very anxious about that at the time. But I was surprised at, how much I enjoyed it, and how it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. Now, I'm sure in a lot of your organizations, you've got many people who've done the same. And so maybe Soonu and Ankita, you could just give me a little bit of a perspective on how your company is thinking about hiring and onboarding and really building and creating relationships in a remote and virtual world. Soonu and Ankita, do you have a perspective on that? Or anyone else on the panel?
Yeah, sorry, Wendy. So you mentioned about hiring and onboarding, right?
Yes, and in a virtual world, I mean, how do you do that effectively?
So, of course, honestly, we didn't really have tools and processes to really virtually onboard because, as I said, with a governance body which is very strong in having in office presence, we had our terminals to be stationed in office, etc. So it was very difficult to even have a foresight about it. So we started with basics, trying to get everything through documents, capturing insights, having voice calls, blurring the lines, as Renu said, that no more there were mails and WhatsApp groups separately, everything integrated. And so we tried to form our basics in place and get ourselves aligned in a manner where we could at least continue our onboarding ways. And of course, while of course the pandemic struck, but we were really hiring and our hiring never stopped. So I think that gave us more pressure to continue and have innovative ways of doing it. In terms of we also quickly inbuilt some sort of competency based skill sets, interviewing skills, which helped us define competencies, divide them across our recruitment board, and then select our employees. While you are the branch head could be doing it locally, there could be somebody at the corporate office dealing with it. So we tried and divided with basic skill sets that were available to us. We really didn't have the time and energy to get into a real tool in place, which of course now we have understood the importance of it, and we are looking forward of some certain integrations that will happen. So yes, I think following our basic rituals and ensuring that there are touch points. Campus interviewing, I think that was something very different that I had never even done in my previous organizations online. There were always fight for slots to go, minus days, 0 days on campuses, and then that suddenly shifting to an online world because it was very important to have professional and personal connects with people on campus. So while we would have our pre-placement talks, but the real selection and the real interaction would happen during the casual talks or during wine and dine events to understand the nuances of an organization and of the individual. So I think that was a complete shift. Of course, we did try some breakout rooms and we did try some other alternatives, but definitely a gap in having interpersonal connect there. So I think that was a different altogether.
Excellent. And Renu or Ankita, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, Wendy. So as far as processes are concerned, I think we had them in place from starting. Because of pandemic, we knew that obviously face-to-face is not possible. And you would agree that earlier when there was any senior level interview, people would say, no, I want to meet that individual because body language and what's the perspective, a lot of things matter. Wherein because of pandemic, people accepted that even if it's through online, if it's virtual, it can help and it can work out. So that's the major change. And when we realized that now everything has to be online, we just shifted. We ensured that all our processes from offline, they become online. So that was the major shift. And when you talk about hiring, when you talk about new candidates coming in the organization, and when we talk about exit processes where people have been in the system and they are leaving, the purpose, process, feedback, and acceptance has to be same. So these are few common elements. We ensure that our hiring processes as well as our exit processes, they have those things in common. Even though we go online, but as we say, the glamorous and gracious entry as well as the gracious exit should be maintained. So we kept the human touch intact with all our online processes. Wherever it was possible, we went ahead to an extent where we wanted to know a little more about the candidate. We wanted to understand from them how else we can support you in addition to the regular laid down processes. And thanks to technology, I think with the help of technology, we've been able to do, we have always used internal platform, but we have enabled it to a better extent where it is more interactive and more collaborative with respect to the external people as well. Wherein when I say external people, the candidates who are still not working with us, but when they are part of that platform, they think they are already part of the system. So these are few changes that we brought in.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. And I'm conscious of time. We've got so much to talk about. It's such a rich conversation, but I'm conscious of time. So I'd like to just ask a question about data. And I might ask that to Madhumita. You know, how do we bring in data to the employee engagement efforts? And what's the best way to leverage people analytics to know and really track whether our efforts are showing the desired outcomes?
Yeah, I think data is probably sort of the underlying strong backbone. And whatever initiatives that we've done, I'm sure in our organizations, that would have been backed by some data. And people analytics as a sort of a topic has taken a really important and a crucial place in the HR in HR. And when it comes to engagement, you can get various kind of data. I mean, you do a pulse survey, you get a data on that. You do a normal census survey, you get a data on that. But I think what's important is what do you do with the data? So one is the actions that you would do with the data. And two is how do you support your actions? So just to give an example, you do an engagement survey, and I'm sure all of us do that. And then you get to see some teams which are highly engaged, others which are not. So how do you then, sort of manage to keep the momentum in those highly engaged teams and organizations? And how do you bring the rest of the others sort of up to speed? How do you support it? And in our organization, while we did our people analytics and all the data cuts that I think, nerds like us would love to look at it and get so wowed about it, we also used a lot of, solutions which were more of AI, ML based kind of solution to help the leaders, to provide them with the necessary capabilities and knowledge and skills to really engage with the teams, especially in all these very difficult circumstances. I mean, let's face it, whether it's the first wave or the second wave, they've been very, very difficult circumstances. And so how do you do that? And so a lot of times technology has really helped us. And like I said in the beginning, I think we were lucky to have an organization where the leaders wanted to embrace technology and the teams wanted to embrace technology. So it really helped us to do that. That's so that's how we did it, Wendy.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. And then I think just one final question, and then I think we've got one question coming from the audience that we'll take. And I'll open this question to all of you. We may not have time for everyone to answer it. But if any of you would just like to provide a perspective on just gaining buy-in for employee engagement initiatives. I think many of us still face a challenge with getting that very senior leadership buy-in to some of the initiatives that we know we need to really drive across an organization. So what would your advice be to the audience on how to build the business case for increased investment in the initiatives and tools around employee engagement?
So if I take a shot on that question, so I would say very briefly data. Yeah, because how we present data to what will make the leaders decide on investment on employee experience tools. Obviously, they will see the ROI. And then I think this particular, strong argument that to treat customers and employees as, same as two sides of the same coin. I think this is very important. So how do you treat customer? You see each touch point and you talk about customer experience. Similarly, be it in all the stages of employee life cycle, starting from attract to hire to onboard, engage, perform, develop, and depart or exit. In all these, there are various touch point which needs a lot of experiences, and then bringing data in front of the leaders about through a dipstick survey, through various survey, be it infant attrition, be it retention interviews, and so on, we can build a strong case about leveraging on employee experience. And tool plays a very, very important role to upskill, or not even upskill, but to enhance things, to fast pace them. And there are studies which says that companies with high employee engagement score have outperformed in the stock market, and bringing those kind of studies in front of the business leaders can help you build a case. This is what my thought process is.
Excellent. And does anyone else very quickly want to add anything to that?
So, Wendy, I think Renu has covered it well, but I think building more listening posts, as we've always invested for our consumers and customers, and also having a thought process. I'm sure all top-down approach has changed over the years now, and most organizations believe in employee engagement and look at it as an investment. And inspired workforce would deliver best-in-class service to your consumers, and with that help you build top line. That's the ethos that most of the organizations follow, the next gen organization. But I guess building listening posts and churning that data and insights, as Renu was mentioning, is one of the powerful tools as well to get more buy-in and more conviction across the organization.
Yeah, so important. Listening is part of communications, not just telling, but also listening. So thank you for that, Priya. I'm now going to take, we've got one question from the audience. So currently in my organization, we do Employee Connect once per week, but employees aren't getting as engaged as the initial stages of work from home. How can we put innovation into these virtual gatherings across the company? So how can we continue to involve them to make sure that we maintain strong engagement? Would a couple of you like to take that question?
I can attempt, Wendy. I think, if you just want to introspect the phase one and the nature of engagement that we led, and phase two of COVID were two very different things, right? Phase two was much more severe. It led to a lot of uncertainty. It led to a lot of stress. And I said earlier, because it was closer to home, right? While phase one, we were still a little distant. So if we just have to just think about, the two situations, the same kind of engagement what we had in phase one, and if we kind of try and replicate for phase two would not work. And I'm just saying it from experience, because what we did in phase one and phase two was very different. All right, while phase one, we did a lot in terms of, physical activity within, what is it that you can do within the confines of the home, and, an engagement around that. Phase two was a very different kind of engagement where, starting from leadership, the connects of leadership were more into just trying and finding out and giving support to people. Everyone was impacted. So how is it that they could just give that sense of security and safety to the employees was key, right? Secondly, engagement took a very new meaning, and I think a lot of you have already spoken about it. I know Renu spoke about it, Madhumita spoke about it, and also Saba spoke about it, which was on the engagement was more towards mental health, right? It took another shape. How is it that we can provide offerings to people which would help them deal with the stress and anxiety that was stemming because of the pandemic? So that was a very different kind of interventions that we had to run. Even if I have to talk about learning offers and what we did, secondly was more around just ensuring how is it that you could maintain that sense of balance, and if I may say so, sense of sanity in uncertain times, right? So therefore, the engagement that we did in phase two was more around health, just ensuring that our employees were healthy. What is it that we need to do, providing more in terms of, and ensuring that we were able to provide an ecosystem to them, which was supported supported. So what that meant was that our employees felt safe, that they were taken care of. Could be in terms of medication, could be in terms of, concentrators, could be in terms of the hospitalization, medical advice. So therefore, through this, we tried to ensure that this was of prime importance. We tried to ensure and give that safety blanket to our employees, saying that in eventuality, the organization stands by you, and this is what we've done. So this was a big element of, I think, what all of us would have done in our respective organizations. And then the secondary, which is, the connects which happened, and they were much more authentic because the leaders themselves were impacted, right? So therefore, it was challenging, but I think the connects were much more authentic, much more personalized than even wave one. So therefore, I won't draw a panel from first to the second wave. I just think second wave had its challenges, which were much graver, deeper, and had to be dealt with a different state.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Does anyone very quickly want to add anything?
Wendy, very quickly. Saba, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll just add on. In fact, what I've seen is that a lot of feedback comes when you do these town halls or these engagement interventions. And the larger question is to ask, how do you actually systematically close that feedback in as well? And that creates more engagement because people know that they have given on feedback, or a conversation has happened. What really happens out of it? What's the outcome? Are we really working on something, or something, even if it cannot be done? It's very important to close loop that out, because once that happens, you'll find more participation happening as well. So I'll just add on to what Niharika said. I think she's covered it very well, but that's what I found, enhances engagement levels across.
Excellent. So listen to the feedback and be sure to take action. Yeah, incredibly important, incredibly important. Well, look, unfortunately, we're just about out of time. So I would just like to wrap up today's session with a few closing remarks. I think it's very rare that the entire world, quite frankly, is catapulted into a series of transformations at the very same time. I think we've all learned through that anything is possible. And I think we've all adapted with such resilience. But I think we have to appreciate, as we've discussed today, that the work culture will continue to evolve as a result of us adopting some of the new practices and the learnings, but also holding on to some of the old. A common theme in today's discussion was the renewed focus that we have to have on employees, and putting their well-being really at the heart of our organizations and our businesses. As the pandemic continues to unfold, I think it's, as I said, taught us so much. Everyone and every family is having to cope with so much, both across their personal, but also their work lives. And, we touched on flexibility and the importance of work-life integration. That's going to mean different things to different people. And really, companies need to be aware of that to ensure that we're meeting everyone's needs. For so many of our companies who have adapted to these new ways of doing things, we've still been able to maintain a high level of productivity. And I think that's probably surprised some of us. But we need to be very, very careful that we support people to maintain a healthy balance, so that wellness piece between their professional and their personal lives, really to avoid burnout. So if there was just one parting piece of advice I could leave with you, I think it's that trust and empathy play crucial roles in defining the new rules of employee engagement. Leaders need to be cognizant that each employee's situation is different. They need to ensure that their team is feeling supported and also empowered to do their work to the very best of their ability, but while also having the freedom to take the pauses they need to rest and to balance work and home. No doubt, as all of our panelists have emphasized, technology is going to play a huge role in shaping the future of the employee experience. Equally important is keeping that human touch intact at every step of the employee experience, from hiring to the day-to-day and everything else. After all, I think happy employees will make for happy customers. I think COVID-19 has forced us all to reimagine our practices, tools, and services, and this has been no small task. As Gartner predicts, the habits employees and managers are forming now will have a long tail and influence the way organizations operate for years to come. Reimagining how we engage our workforce today and in the future is a massive undertaking. And I certainly hope that today's panel offered some clarity on the way forward. Thank you for joining us, and a very, very special thank you to our panelists. We wish everyone good health and good spirits. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Thank you so much indeed to all of our panelists as well, for each one of you sharing very, very relevant set of pointers, some interesting touch points that we all gathered to take away. And thank you, Wendy, for so beautifully moderating this session. Thank you once again to everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, I believe all of our members of the audience, all our attendees, I'm sure we all managed to gather a lot of perspectives that are flowing in from all of our speakers. And I hope, just like me, I think I've been taking down a lot of points as well. I'm sure all of you have been doing that as well. And while we do so, let's also gear up for another panel discussion coming your way. And this time, another interesting theme. It looks like the entire summit, we have some very interesting themes flowing in. So stay tuned. We'll get our next session started in just a minute.